Today you will have the opportunity to explore the complete teaching of Jesus Christ. Bible understanding starting with the narrative of the account of the life and death of Jesus' disciples. This experience promises to transform your understanding of the divine word. Without a doubt, upon completing this video, you will see yourself differently with an even deeper love for God's message. This transformation will occur as you open your heart to the sacred scriptures. If you've ever struggled to comprehend the Bible, this video will provide the clarity you seek after absorbing all the knowledge that will be shared. I believe you will be enriched and enlightened by the wisdom of the scriptures. The journey through the Bible. The Sermon on the Mount has long been rightly understood as both a starting point and a summation of Jesus' teaching. It begins with the Beatitudes, Mount 5:3-12, in which Jesus delineates the categories of people he says enjoy special favor. The Beatitudes are all familiar to us as sayings, the best known being blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. But what really are they? Is Jesus merely pronouncing a blessing, offering good wishes to those whom he chooses to single out? In fact, there's more to the story than that. The Beatitudes provide a dizzying commentary designed to turn upside down the political and social world of the Roman Empire of Caesar Augustus and of the Jewish religious elite of Judea and Jerusalem. This is the opening move of a more drastic and fundamental reassessment of political and social affairs, applying not only to its own time, but to all future times, down to our day. More still, it points to the increasing fulfillment in this world of the promise of the human condition as such, and of the struggle against vast and daunting, but not insurmountable obstacles that such fulfillment will require. Jesus describes those who are truly fortunate, the lucky ones of their day, but it is not emperors, conquerors, priests, and the wealthy who enjoy this favor. Rather, it is the common people, those whom earthly success has largely passed by. The poor, the meek, the persecuted, the peacemakers. How can this be? Because though they may have been denied worldly success, what cannot be taken away from them is their potential to live rightly by one another. It is all too easy for those who enjoy the pleasures of this world to try to float above such obligations. Jesus goes on to say that so long as ordinary people stand for the right things and do not retreat in their rightness before those who seem to have more power, what's right will prevail. It's their kingdom, a kingdom organized not from the top down, but from the bottom up. In the Beatitudes, Jesus offers a description of the community of goodwill his teaching will build in this world. Each of the Beatitudes includes not only a statement about who is blessed, but also a short description of what is in store for each category of those who are blessed. The meek shall inherit the earth. Are those predictions Jesus is making, or promises about what the future holds? If so, where? Only in the next world, or in this world as well? In order to see the answers to these questions, we have to look at the Beatitudes, not just individually, but in relation to each other. With these 9 categories, Jesus offers a portrait of the ways in which it is possible to be a good person with respect to others. A description of the various forms human goodness, in this social sense, can take. This description is as true today as it was in his day, and if we are looking for the ways in which it is possible to be a good person today, we really need look no farther. As for the predictions or promises, what Jesus has done with them is to imagine the consequences of a world composed of more and categories he specifies in Matthew, blessed. The sense of the term here is fortunate or prosperous. Who are the lucky ones? The poor in spirit are prosperous. Those who mourn are fortunate. So are the gentle, and those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, and the merciful, and the pure in heart, and the peacemakers, and those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness. Finally, says Jesus, fortunate are you when people insult you and persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. By now, we are used to the idea of wishing well for those who are downtrodden, who are oppressed, who can't get a break, who have fallen on hard times. This is in no small measure a product of the teaching of Jesus itself, in this passage and elsewhere. Those in his time who heard him speak words such as these, however, had a different general outlook and set of expectations. There was a world in which robbers could leave a man dead on the side of a road, and it was unclear whether anyone would stop to help. 1. The exalted were truly exalted. The rich, the royal, the Sadducees and Pharisees, the imperial Roman officers, the tax collectors, and they often treated have-nots with undisguised more people attuned to the social good as he has described it. He offers in these few lines a description of what the world looks like when good people prevail over bad people. And he makes the bold claim that such a world will come to pass. Jesus calls those who belong to the nine contempt. From the beginning of his career, Jesus understood clearly the high stakes involved in his political teaching. Here Jesus proposes a different hierarchy. To see whom he elevates in the Beatitudes, it may be helpful to conjure a list of qualities opposite to the ones he lists. Cumulatively, what emerges from this collection of anti-Beatitudes is a portrait of a privileged class, one that sees those below as essentially inferior. For the poor in spirit, the opposite number might be someone arrogant in his righteousness and sense of superiority. For those who mourn, we can substitute those whom the world has given cause for rejoicing. For the gentle, the overbearing. For those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, we may find a contrast in those who are complacent on account of their privileges and defend them vigorously. For the merciful, the unforgiving, perhaps the cruel, those who, when they have an advantage over another, even a temporary one, don't hesitate to exploit it. Opposite the pure in heart are those who are cunning in pursuit of their private gain. Opposite the peacemakers are those who act to create or aggravate conflict. Opposite those who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness are those doing the persecuting. As opposite you when people insult you because of me are those seeking to put down Jesus' teaching and those who follow it. Far from feeling any sense of obligation toward those below, this elite dismisses them as irrelevant, or worse, sees them as objects to be used to its own advantage. In addition, the elite seeks to perpetuate its advantages, if necessary, by silencing those, such as Jesus, who speak up for the downtrodden. There was much for the elite to lose if the teachings of Jesus caught on. Indeed, from the beginning of his career, Jesus understood quite clearly the high stakes involved in his political teaching. Perhaps privileged classes, in the plural, capture the essence a little more precisely. It is an oversimplification to see the problem as simply one of haves versus have-nots. The have-nots have in common that they are oppressed, but their oppressors come in different guises, from the elite of the temple to the occupying Romans, and we must bear in mind how little it takes to oppress. Some who are oppressed by the powerful above them may in turn oppress those below them with yet less power. Oppression can manifest itself in as little as a declined opportunity to show mercy out of the enjoyment of one's position of relative power, one's sense of superiority. It is not only the next world to which Jesus refers. The gentle, he says, shall inherit the earth. As it turns out, though, the have-nots have more going in their favor than they realize, and this is Jesus' message. For the poor in spirit, theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Those who mourn shall be comforted. The gentle shall inherit the earth. Those who hunger and thirst for righteousness shall be satisfied. The merciful shall receive mercy. The pure in heart shall see God. The peacemakers shall be called sons of God. As for those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness, again, theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And for those who are insulted, persecuted, and falsely accused because they adhere to and seek to exemplify Jesus' teaching, he tells them, "Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great." At first, it seems that Jesus sees the rectification of the worldly troubles of those whom he has described as blessed, coming only in the next world, referring to heaven in 3 of the Beatitudes and in a 4th, promising the sight of God. However, it is not only the next world to which Jesus refers. Most conspicuously, the gentle, he says, shall inherit the earth. This statement could not be more emphatically rooted in this world. It promises no less than this world itself to the gentle, or meek, or humble. Note that Jesus does not say the gentle will take over the world or conquer the world. The way in which the gentle come to possess the world is not by becoming something other than what they are. Rather, the world comes to them as an inheritance, a bequest. The language is striking. One obtains an inheritance upon the death of one's benefactor. This raises the question, a bequest from whom? We will soon see the answer. 3 of the other promises or predictions of the Beatitudes are at least as grounded in this world as they are in the next. Where will those who mourn be comforted? Where will those who hunger and thirst for righteousness be satisfied? Where will the merciful receive mercy? Come the time that the gentle do indeed inherit the earth. Should such a world come to pass, it seems plausible that those who mourn will find the comfort Jesus has promised in such a world, that those who desire righteousness will find it, that the merciful will be shown mercy there. Furthermore, we must also ask why the pure in heart will see God only in heaven, since perhaps the uncorrupted heart could have access to a vision of the divine on earth as well. Jesus does not speak of a reward explicitly in heaven here, as he does elsewhere. As for the peacemakers, who will be called sons of God, will they be called this in heaven only, or perhaps on earth, where they may be said to be doing the Lord's work, earthly emulators of Jesus with regard to the pursuit of peace? Jesus speaks of this world prospectively. The gentle have not yet inherited it. Those who desire righteousness are not yet satisfied. But whatever consolation they may draw in the present moment, listening to Jesus speak on the mountainside, that their hunger for righteousness will be satisfied in the next world, the future that Jesus describes points to a form of satisfaction in this world also. The Beatitudes are organized according to a scale running from passivity and paralysis in this world, through increasing levels of engagement with it in accordance with what Jesus is teaching, up to a pinnacle of earthly conduct Jesus describes. The categories he delineates describe people we can recognize in our own day, from homeless shelters and nursing homes to the halls of power, at least on those occasions when people rise above their private ambitions and work for the public good. We begin with the poor in spirit. It is an ambiguous phrase, but one that evokes a sense of those incapable of taking care of themselves at all. The dejected, the demoralized, those in whom the spark has gone out. They have given up, resigning themselves to their lonely place at the bottom, beyond reach of all others. Next come the mourners, whom we may think of as temporarily incapacitated, for now they are overwhelmed by a sense of grief and loss. They are perhaps unable to take care of themselves or to fulfill their responsibilities toward others. They once felt a connection to another or others, strongly enough to be reduced to incapacity by the loss. The loss of that connection in turn imperils all their other connections. Because they were once more robust, however, now there is at least the possibility that one day they will again be so, having recovered from their mourning. Then there are the gentle or meek or humble. They walk softly upon the earth, seeking to impose themselves on others as little as possible. They see their obligations as best they can, but they take nothing from others and ask for nothing from them for themselves. They are satisfied with what they have, however meager it may be. They do not strive, but accept their circumstances. The gentle are followed by those who desire righteousness. They, unlike the gentle and still less poor in spirit, have surveyed the world around them and are dissatisfied with it, wishing instead for a world in which their desire for righteousness is fulfilled. Here, Jesus uses metaphorical language. He speaks of those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. All people get hungry, all people get thirsty. Hunger and thirst are primordial and universal bodily desires. Jesus specifies an object of desire that is distinctly human, but not of the body, the desire for righteousness. Here, however, the desire Jesus speaks of, the desire for righteousness, is something whose satisfaction, unlike hunger and thirst, is not of the body. Having passed from the permanently dispirited, the poor in spirit, to the incapacitated, those who mourn, to the unstirred spirit of acquiescence, the gentle or meek, We arrive now at the moment when the human spirit becomes an active entity for the first time. People are no longer merely operated on, passive objects played with by natural forces or the will of other, stronger human beings. Instead, they stir of their own will, seeking for themselves something outside themselves. In the desire for food and drink, people are no different from other